Bagpuss, the Wombles, Rainbow, British Bulldog in the playground, a bicycle that became a status symbol, comics you'd read cover to cover every week, and sweets that turned your tongue black. Growing up in 70s, Britain meant something completely different to today. From the telly we watched to the games we played, here's everything that defined the decade. Right then, let's count down from 50, shall we? 50. Walking to school, rain or shine. Most kids walked to school in the 1970s, every single day. Puddles became obstacles in wellies. Autumn leaves crunched underfoot. Winter meant trudging through snow. Lollipop ladies stood at busy roads with their round stop signs. Kids arrived with rosy cheeks, ready for the day. 49. Scratchy school uniforms. School uniforms were sometimes torturous. Many schools, particularly in England, required boys to wear short trousers as part of their uniform until a certain age or height. Girls had pinafores and thick woolly tights that itched constantly, but it was part of the fashion back then. 48. Handwriting practice and ink pens. Handwriting wasn't just taught, it was perfect. Joined-up writing was the gold standard, cursive style with sloping ascenders and elegant tails. Exercise books had pale blue guidelines. Teachers watched like hawks. Posture had to be perfect, pen grip had to be exact. Get it wrong and you'd be doing it again. 47. School accessories and badges. School bags were plain satchels. Kids decorated them with badge pins. Bands, TV shows, cheeky slogans, I love badges. Swap shop versus Tissoir's allegiance. The real status symbol, a digital watch with a red LED display. If you had one, you showed it off like it was James Bond's. 46. Jumpers for goalposts. Coats or school jumpers got thrown down as goalposts. Impromptu matches on concrete. Shouts of "next goal wins" echoing down the road. Cars were not as common as today. Every cul-de-sac became Wembley Stadium. Then Mum's voice cut through, calling everyone in for dinner. Game over. 45. Homemade go-karts, bogies. Kids didn't buy go-karts, they built them. Scrap wood, pram wheels, a bit of rope, racing down hills at terrifying speed. There were no brakes. Stopping meant crashing into a hedge or using a mate as a barrier. Scraped knees were expected. 44. Knock down ginger. Knock on a neighbor's door, run before they answer, hide and try not to laugh. Hearts pounded with fear and excitement. The thrill was in the escape, until someone picked the local Grump's door, then everyone scattered, shrieking. 43. Building dens and forts. A couple of chairs and a bedsheet transformed the living room. No adults allowed signs went up. Outdoors, kids gathered sticks and cardboard, built dens in gardens and hedgerows. These forts let imaginations run wild. For those few hours, that world was real. 42. Bonfire night bonanzas. Weeks before Guy Fawkes Night, kids scavenged for firewood. The bonfire pile grew taller. They crafted a stuffed Guy Fawkes, stood outside shops asking "penny for the guy" to earn coins for fireworks. Come the 5th of November, sparklers waved in gloved hands. The heat of the fire warmed frozen cheeks. 41. Snow day adventures. When snow fell, kids grabbed bin bags, tea trays, old bits of lino. These became sleds. Snowmen appeared in gardens, carrot noses, Mum's old scarf. If school closed, that meant freedom. Snowball fights until fingers go numb. After that, we would drink a hot cocoa. 40. Flying saucers. Little pastel-colored discs shaped like UFOs, made of edible rice paper filled with fizzy sherbet. Place one on your tongue and it dissolves instantly. Tangy sherbet burst out, a staple in sweet shops for decades. Pure nostalgia in edible form. 39. Blackjacks and fruit salads. Blackjacks were small black chews with licorice aniseed flavor. They turned your tongue completely black. Fruit salads were bright pink-orange with tangy fruit flavor. Kids walked out with black tongues and sticky hands. 38. Ice cream van delights. That tinny melody drifting through the streets. Greensleeves or match of the day. Kids scrambled indoors begging for change. 99 flakes. Screwballs with bubblegum at the bottom. Zoom rocket lollies. Fab lollies. Sometimes he even sold penny sweets or eggs for mums. 37. Fish and chips on Fridays. Friday night meant the chippy, the smell of vinegar and frying oil from down the street. Watching the fryer wrap steaming fish and chips in newspaper. On the walk home, sneaking chips was impossible to resist. Scalding hot, soaked in salt and vinegar. 36. School tuck shop and bake sales. The tuck shop sold treats during breaks. A wam bar, polos, sherbet dip dabs. School fairs had tables piled with homemade goods. Rice Krispie cakes, butterfly cupcakes, flapjacks. Kids queued with their coins, making pocket money stretch. 35. Donny Osmond and the Osmonds. Donny Osmond was the puppy love prince of pop. His 1972 hit Puppy Love sent schoolgirls swooning. The Osmond brothers had hits like Crazy Horses and Love Me for a Reason. Kids knew every word, every dance move. 34. ABBA. Eurovision 1974. ABBA won with Waterloo and became superstars. By the late 70s, Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia, and Fernando were everywhere. Children loved imitating the glittery outfits, singing into hairbrushes, pure joy wrapped in pop music. 33. Top of the Pops and LP records. Thursday evening meant Top of the Pops. Families watched together, Susie Quattro in leather, mud, doing tiger feet. Vinyl was king. LP records from Slade, The Sweet, David Bowie, scattered in living rooms. Music was an event the whole family shared. 32. Enid Blyton's adventure books. The Famous Five, The Secret Seven, The Faraway Tree, stories full of picnics and hidden treasures. Julian, Dick, Anne, George, and Timmy the dog foiled smugglers and explored mysterious islands. Over 500 million books sold, perfect fuel for young imaginations. 31. Mr. Men and Little Miss Books. 1971 brought Mr. Tickle, an orange blob with extraordinarily long arms. Soon dozens followed: Mr. Happy, Mr. Grumpy, Mr. Bump. Small square books, cheap, pocket-sized. Kids loved collecting them. 30. Ladybird books. Small hardbacks with the Ladybird logo. Fairy tales, nursery rhymes, how it works topics. Peter and Jane taught countless children to read. Well-loved tales brought stories to life. Beautiful illustrations, simple text. They ignited curiosity. 29. Panini football stickers and albums. Late 70s. Panini sticker books turned every kid into a collector. All pocket money went to packets of stickers. Swapping doubles in the playground. Completing an album was a triumphant moment. 28. Subbuteo table football. A green cloth pitch, semi-flat plastic players, flick to kick. Arguments erupted. That was a goal. No, it wasn't. The agony of snapping your star striker in half. The thrill of scoring after a perfect flick. 27. Board games galore. Monopoly, Cluedo, Scrabble, Mousetrap, Operation, Kerplunk, Buckaroo. Hungry, hungry hippos clattered so loud it could wake the dead. If there wasn't a shop-bought game, kids invented their own. 26. The Raleigh Grifter and skateboards. The Raleigh Grifter made a clackety motor sound with a playing card in the spokes. Bright plastic skateboards in garish colors. Kids wobbled down pavements. No helmets, no pads. Metal clamp-on roller skates tightened over shoes with a key. 25. Puzzles and rainy day toys. Etch-a-sketch. Twist two knobs to draw. Shake to erase. Fuzzy felt. Stick and unstick pieces to create endless scenes. Viewmaster. 3D images through a red binocular device. Clackers. Two acrylic balls smashing together until some shattered mid-clack. 24. Creative and pretend play. An old bedsheet became a superhero cape. Kids hosted tea parties with dolls, playing shop with empty boxes, playing school with little siblings, recording silly radio shows with a tape recorder, screen-free fun using whatever was at hand. 23. Films at the cinema and Saturday morning pictures. Cinema was a special treat. Snow White, bedknobs and broomsticks. Star Wars. Saturday morning pictures. Cheap showings for kids, cartoons and serial adventures. Afterwards, kids ran around with makeshift lightsabers, reliving the magic. 22. Rotary phones and party lines. Big, heavy rotary dial phones fixed in the hallway. Spinning the dial took forever. Some households had party lines. Pick up and hear someone else's conversation. Privacy was minimal, but that one phone was a lifeline. 21. Haircuts and home salons. Mums put kids on a stool in the kitchen and snipped away, fringes cut too short or wonky. The pudding bowl cut was real. Using an actual bowl as a guide, boys had shaggy hair by the mid-70s. Girls wore pigtails with colorful bobbles. 20. Magpie. ITV launched Magpie in 1968 as their answer to Blue Peter. But this wasn't your typical stiff children's program. Presenters like Jenny Hanley and Mick Robertson made it cooler, edgier. They talked about music, pop culture, things kids actually cared about. The theme tune came from the old nursery rhyme, 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. If you were a Magpie kid, you made sure everyone knew you weren't watching Blue Peter. 19. The Clangers. Pink knitted creatures living on a tiny blue planet. They spoke in whistles. Their best mate was the soup dragon. The Clangers was weird, but that's why kids loved it. Oliver Postgate narrated whilst these mouse-like aliens solved problems with teamwork and soup. It was calm, gentle, and completely bonkers in the best British way possible. 18. Mr. Ben. Only 13 episodes were ever made. Yet somehow, Mr. Ben stuck in everyone's head. A bloke in a bowler hat visits a costume shop, tries on an outfit, walks through a magic door, and ends up on an adventure. Astronaut one day, knight the next. He always came back with a little souvenir. Simple concept, massive impact. 17. Rainbow. Jeffrey Hayes lived in Rainbow House with 3 puppets who became icons. Zippy had a zip for a mouth and never shut up. George was a shy pink hippo. Bungle was a bear in a costume who somehow nobody questioned. Add Rod, Jane, and Freddie singing songs, and you had the perfect show for younger kids. Paint the whole world with a rainbow. If you sang that just now, you know. 16. Tiswas. Saturday mornings meant one thing: chaos. Chris Tarrant, Sally James, and a cast of lunatics made Tiswas the wildest kids show on telly. Custard pies flying everywhere. The Phantom Flan Flinger attacking guests. Live music. Sketches that made no sense. Kids could write in and get their letters read out. It was loud, messy, and completely brilliant. Sensible telly could do one. This was what weekends were for. 15. Bagpuss. A saggy old cloth cat who came to life when a girl named Emily brought broken things to mend. Bagpuss and his toy mates would fix the objects, tell stories, then yawn and fall back asleep at the end. It aired in 1974 and became one of the most loved children's programs ever made. Warm, gentle, and proper old-fashioned storytelling that stuck with you. 14. The Wombles. Furry creatures living under Wimbledon Common, picking up rubbish humans left behind. Uncle Bulgaria, Orinoco, and the gang taught kids about recycling before anyone cared about going green. Underground, overground, wombling free, that theme tune was everywhere. They made cleaning up litter look like an adventure. 13. British Bulldog. The playground game that got banned. One kid stood in the middle as the bulldog. Everyone else had to run past without getting caught or tackled. Full contact, no rules, pile-ups everywhere. Torn uniforms, bruises, maybe a trip to the school nurse. Schools started banning it for being too rough, which only made kids want to play it more. Legendary status achieved. 12. Skipping rope games. Girls dominated the playground at break time with long ropes and chanting rhymes. Cinderella, dressed in yellow, kept the rhythm going whilst kids jumped in and out. 2 people held the rope, everyone else queued up. Some playgrounds had French skipping, elastic loops stretched between ankles, jumping higher and higher. Simple fun that got your heart pumping. 11. Hopscotch and marbles. Chalk grids appeared on every playground. Toss a stone, hop through the squares on 1 foot, don't lose balance. Meanwhile, the marble players drew circles in the dirt, shooting glass marbles to knock others out. Cat's eye marbles were the most prized. Kids traded them, competed for the best shooters. These games had been around for decades, but they still ruled the 70s playground. 10. School dinners. Queue up with your plastic tray in the canteen. Some days you got chips and everyone celebrated. Other days? Lumpy custard, semolina that stood a spoon upright, and the smell of boiled cabbage drifting through every corridor. Mince and mash, spotted dick with custard. It was hit or miss, but everyone tried trading puddings for extra roast potatoes. For some it was shared happiness, and for others it was shared misery. 9. The lost property box. An overflowing basket in the school hall that became a time capsule of chaos. odd plimsolls with no partner, soggy mittens, scuffed lunchboxes, jumpers that somehow shrunk 3 sizes. Every kid spent time digging through that jumble, hunting for missing PE kit or discovering something completely bizarre that nobody claimed. 8. Nature table. Most primary classrooms had one, a special table covered in treasures from outside, leaves, conkers, pine cones, shells, bird nests. Kids brought in anything interesting they found. Between lessons, everyone gravitated over to examine the finds, pick things up, ask questions. These tables had their heyday in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. For many children, it sparked a lifelong interest in nature. 7. Sherbet fountains. A yellow cardboard tube filled with fizzy sherbet powder and a licorice stick as the straw. You'd lick the licorice, dip it in, and get a tangy explosion on your tongue. Sherbet ended up on your nose, your clothes, everywhere. That was the point. Messy, fizzy, and absolutely brilliant. These had been around since the 1920s, but 70s kids made them legendary. 6. Curly Whirly. Launched in the 1970s, this chocolate bar had a curly lattice shape that made it perfect for playing with. Chewy caramel covered in milk chocolate, long and flat with holes all through it. Kids loved seeing how far they could stretch the caramel before it snapped. Cadbury sold them worldwide, but British children claimed them as their own. At just a few pence, they lasted ages if you nibbled slowly. 5. Space Hopper. A massive orange rubber ball with handles that turned every kid into a bouncing kangaroo. About 2 feet across, you'd sit on it and bounce around the garden or street. Metoy brought it to the UK in 1969, and it became the must-have toy of the 1970s. If you had a space hopper, you were sorted for hours of entertainment. 4. Raleigh Chopper. The bike that made you king of the playground. Long padded banana seat with a backrest. Ape hanger handlebars. A gear lever in the middle that looked ace but hurt if you slipped off. Bright colors, flashy stripes. This Nottingham-made bicycle outsold everything else at its peak. The front wheel wobbled, the gears were tricky, but nobody cared. If you rode a chopper, you had instant respect. 3. The Beano. Dennis the Menace and Ganasha. The Bash Street Kids. Minnie the Minx. Roger the Dodger. Every week, this comic delivered pure chaos and cheeky humor. Published in Dundee since 1938, the Beano was an institution by the 70s. Kids read about Dennis causing mayhem or the Bash Street Kids tormenting their teacher. It's the world's longest-running comic magazine, over 2 billion copies sold. Alongside the Dandy, it entertained generations of British children. 2. Bay City Rollers. Rollermania swept Britain in the mid-70s. This Scottish band in tartangent-trimmed outfits had fans screaming at every appearance. Shang-a-Lang and Bye Bye Baby blasted from radios everywhere. They were called the biggest group since the Beatles. Teen magazines plastered their faces on every page. The tartan teen sensations from Edinburgh owned the decade. 1. The School Knit Nurse. Nothing struck fear quite like hearing Knitty Nora's coming. The school nurse would appear, line everyone up in the corridor, and inspect each child's hair with rubber gloves. Looking for head lice, kids fidgeted nervously, scratching phantom itches. Getting found with knits was mortifying, but the cheeky nickname made it bearable. Classmates whispered warnings down the hallway. It was routine, embarrassing, and something today's kids will never understand. But for 70s children, Knitty Nora the Bug Explorer was an unavoidable part of school life. Growing up in 1970s Britain meant living in a world that doesn't exist anymore. No internet, no mobile phones. Just imagination, freedom, and memories that an entire generation still talks about today. Because that's what happens when childhood was actually mental enough to remember. Cheers for being here. If you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you along for the ride.